Hello, in this part, we will be attaching the dress to the lining and inserting the invisible zipper, so the lining fabric dressed the same way as the main fabric dress parts. I turn the lining fabric inside out. And insert the main fabric dress into the lining. This way, the right side of the main fabric dress and the right side of the lining will be together. I fix the dress to the lining at the center front mark. Then I attach them along the front relief lines. I fix the pieces along the center back line and the side seams with pins. From the center back line, I leave a 1 cm on both sides, because later we will be inserting the invisible zipper and we don't need a seam here. I start sewing from the center back line leaving a 1 cm. And finish the seam at the point where I marked 1 cm. I finish the seam at this mark. Now you can remove the temporary seam along the center back. I pull out the lining from the dress and then insert it back into the dress. but this time in such a way that the wrong sides of the main fabric dress and lining fabric are inside. I hand stitch along the top edge of the dress, simultaneously creating a small fold of 0.1 centimeters. It's convenient to basting the top edge of the dress from the lining side, as it helps to form this small fold. It is needed to ensure that the seam is not visible from the right side of the dress. Now, attention! We need to sew the bottom edge of the main fabric skirt to the lining. To do this, we need to pull the bottom of the skirt through the opening in the center back. Earlier, I removed the temporary seam along the center back where the invisible zipper will be attached, and it is through this opening that we need to pull out the bottom of the skirt. I insert my hand between the dress and the lining through this opening and take the bottom of the skirt from the main fabric and the bottom of the skirt from the lining, pulling them towards me. I pin them together along the bottom edge of the skirt. Please note that the right sides of the skirt pieces should be facing each other. Gradually, I pull out the skirt and pin it together. I turn the dress right side out from the lining side and hand stitch along the bottom edge of the skirt. I turn the dresses through the hole in the center of the back. Just like at the top edge of the dress, I create a small fold of 0.1 centimeters. before inserting the invisible zipper, it's necessary to connect the dress to the lining along the line where the skirt was attached to the upper part of the dress. I take the seam allowance along the center back of the lining and connect it with the seam allowance on the center back seam of the main fabric. The seam allowances are folded inward. I align them along the seam lines where the skirt meets the top of the dress. I sew them together with hand stitches, ensuring that these stitches are loose and not too tightly pulled. For convenience, before stitching with hand stitches, you can pin the lines of the dress and lining together. Now it's visible that the dress and lining are connected along the line where the skirt is attached. Inserting the invisible zipper, we unfold the seam allowance along the center back seam. Fold and pin the seam allowance from the lining fabric so that it doesn't interfere with inserting the invisible zipper. I attached the zipper to the seam allowance along the center back seam of the main fabric. Please note that you need to leave some space from the top edge so that the top stop of the zipper aligns precisely with this line. I pin the zipper all the way down. On the other side, I also pin the zipper to the seam allowance along the center back seam of the main fabric. I zip up the zipper to make sure it's sewn in without any twists or misalignments. I push the zipper slider to the bottom so that it doesn't interfere while sewing the zipper. If you have a special zipper foot for sewing invisible zippers, use it. I'll be using a regular zipper foot. Now I remove the pin from the seam allowance of the lining fabric. I also remove a few hand stitches from the top edge of the dress so they don't get in the way. I turn the lining and the edge of the main fabric to the wrong side. I pin the seam allowances in place and need to make a seam. This way, the top edge of the zipper will be hidden inside the top seam allowance. Now that the seam is sewn, I can trim the ends of the zipper. I tuck the seam allowances along the center back seams inside. I secure them with pins. Then, I sew the lining to the zipper with small hand stitches from the inside of the dress. At the bottom, I have a small hole that I prefer to neatly close with invisible hand stitches both from the outside of the dress and from the lining side in the same spot at the bottom of the zipper. Always remember to hide the thread ends inside. And it's all done. Since I want the skirt to be very puff, in the next part, we will sew the underskirt made of tulle.